Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to the Monday Morning Coffee Talk Show. We are so grateful you're joining us today. Please let us know where you're coming from and what you're grateful for in the chat box below. And we'd like to welcome our guest this morning. We're so excited. We have two incredible, accomplished authors, Bob Burg, the Go-Giver. Welcome. We're so happy to have you with us yet again.
Hi, Mel. I always love being with you. Thank you.
And we also have Jeff C. West. And Jeff, you are also an accomplished author, and you have joined up with Bob Burg in just an incredible book called Streetwise to Saleswise. And we would love to welcome you today as well.
Thank you so much. It's an absolute honor to join you today.
Wonderful. Well, everyone, I'm Melanie Frank, and I'm so grateful that you're joining us. Again, please let us know where you're coming from and what you are grateful for. When we start off each morning with an attitude of gratitude, it helps us start off our mindset in a positive way, and we can create a really great day. So let's make it a great one and also a great week. I'd love for us to, right here, is share our gratitudes as well. I'll start, and then Bob will go with you, and then we'll go to Jeff. My gratitude today is the excitement of getting to be with both of you. I mean, how amazing is it to have just the wisdom, the knowledge, and, kind of fangirling here a little bit about, just the fact that we have you both with us today. So I'm very, very, very grateful for you. Bob, how about you? What are you grateful for today?
Well, aside from you and Jeff and everybody listening in, I'm grateful for two people right now. Christine Newell, great friend of both of ours, who wrote The Habit of Grateful, and I know that's touching people's lives all over the place right now, and that's such a wonderful book. I suggest that so highly.
Mhm.
And another realtor, Sandra Alexander, I mean, excuse me, who just has she's a wonderful realtor. She has a great story, one of the most inspiring people I know. And she said something to me the other day that was just very, very kind and touched my heart in a very deep way. And I am very grateful for that and grateful for her.
Well, I would have to agree with both of those. They're pretty both amazing people. Sandra, I'm fairly certain, is here with us live.
Oh, cool.
So my
Hi,
guess is,
Sandra.
and the reason why I say that is because she is very on purpose, and
Mm,
just I really there's just only a few people that I could name, that, and Sandra, you are definitely one of them as well. Just being so on purpose and very uh planned about everything that you do, and that makes a lot of your incredible successes. Jeff, how about you? What are you grateful for today?
Well, obviously, I'm grateful just to have the time with you guys this morning and to to be around your audience. But I was thinking about the answer to that question, and I think for me right now, the thing that I'm maybe the most grateful for outside of family and personal relationships is simply the fact that we've had so many people give us such positive feedback about the new book. As a writer, I want the things that I write to make a difference in somebody's life, and I want to feel like I'm making a difference. And some of the feedback where people are posting videos online, they're sending me emails with holding the book and they're putting it online and all that. It's just been so touching to me, and so I would have to put that at the top of my list right now.
Well, I would have to share that your readers and listeners, when it's purchased on Audible, I've listened to it first on Audible, and I love the story. I love the tie-ins, but what I also have found from it, the big gratitude is there's actionable items that come in there that really are tangible for us to start implementing immediately into. So let's talk about the book. Let's talk about, both of you are very accomplished authors, and you've positively impacted and changed so many lives, and we want to really dive into your wisdom. We want to learn more, certainly, about Streetwise to Saleswise. Bob, can you give us a sneak preview? Tell us a little bit about the characters that we will meet in the book. Can't give it
Well,
all away because you have to, order this book and read it, listen to it. But give us a sneak preview, if you would.
yeah, and Jeff was totally the lead writer, storyteller, and developed these characters, and he did such a magnificent job with it. Really, the three biggies are Thaddeus, who is a young up and comer, good guy, but has a way of sort of joking at the wrong time and putting his foot in his mouth, and he ends up joking his way out of a job. and then ends up, just when all seems lost, taking a job in sales, which he's totally unprepared for, doesn't even know if he wants to do. Fortunately, he met Andre, who was much like Joe when he was a kid, but he's now become a very good teacher and just a nice guy and a person who is really becomes a mentor to Thaddeus. And then there is Olivia, who is or Livia, excuse me, who just is, she's a busker. So she's a musician on the streets of New Orleans, and she's wonderful. She has amazing talent, just a way about her people just love, and she's built a real following, but she has a tiny little bit of a lack of confidence that's keeping her from progressing to the point that she should. And so everything gets interweaved by the beautiful writing of Mr. Jeff C. West. And we'll just say that hopefully everyone lives happily ever after.
More to come, more to come. You know, as Bob just mentioned, Jeff, you know, you had a really big role in writing this, and I believe you just got credit for really taking the lead on the storytelling in this. When did the aha moment occur for you to collaborate with Bob?
You know, it actually, the aha moment happened fourth quarter of 2022. Bob and I have had a great friendship now for well over 20 years. And we're always throwing things back and forth about, you know, what do you think about this idea in sales conversations? And we laugh and say, you know, we could literally talk about sales for hours, which may be kind of geeky, but I'm okay with that. But fourth quarter last year, Bob had sent me an email. And it was about a particular post I think he was going to do on LinkedIn. It was just wanted to know my thoughts on something. And the very last comment under his email, no, I had sent him a reply. That's what it was. And he sent me a comment, said, save this, Jeff, because when we write our parable, this could come in handy. Now, he and I had not discussed writing a parable. It had never been yet. He's read both of my other books, been very encouraging always about my books. But that was the first moment. And so, I replied back to his email with the answer. That's what it was. And then I said, oh, and by the way, if you're serious, that answer is, oh, yes, we're doing that.
We're doing that. And here it is. Here we have it.
Right.
Oh my gosh. Well, and it is, you know, when we start to, you know, when you start to listen to the book, I love the way that both, and I would recommend that even if you have ordered the book, which you should, also listen to it, because the two of you are such great storytellers, and you take on the character voices, and, you know, the conversations back and forth are magical. You know, we really get into really feeling that experience in addition to reading. I love to have both. I always want to have both of them. You know, when we think about, you know, how we can relate to these characters, one of the things that I love that you have done is you have taken it not just for salespeople, and it's for entrepreneurs, it's for leadership, because every single one of us has to grow and really be able to expand on, you know, being the best leader, the best salesperson, and providing the best services that we possibly can. You know, Bob, one of the things that you have really emphasized in the Go-Giver book is that it's really important to work with people who know you, like you, and trust you. That parlays really well into this book as well. You know, it's all about the relationships. Why is that so important?
Well, you know, when you think about it, you know, technology has leveled off the playing field, and I'm not just talking about the internet and so forth, but just you know, products, services. They all, you know, they basically work the same at this point. And certainly in real estate, you know, a house is a house, is a home. You know, they are basically commodities, no matter, you know, how else we want to look at it. And if we're gonna, you know, list a home for someone, you know, you can always let them know that, you know, what you're gonna do is you're gonna help them sell it at a higher price and less time with less aggravation. You're gonna handle the staging, and you're gonna handle the showings, and you're gonna handle the advertising and the inspections and the negotiating, all that. Absolutely, you're gonna do that, and you're gonna bring a ton of value to that listing client. But you know what? Every other realtor trying to get that listing can tell them the same thing.
Yeah.
And basically, they can do the same thing. Now, you do it better. I know, absolutely. But unless that, until that potential listing client knows this, well, they don't know that. And unless they can distinguish between any two or more realtors, right, it's always going to come down to who has the lowest fee or commission or what have you, right? So what we say is, all things being equal or close to equal, all things being equal, people will do business with and refer business to those people they know, like, and trust. In other words, when the technology pretty much has it leveled off, it's the relationship that's going to be the difference maker.
And we need to focus on those people, building those relationships. Magical key to success. You know, while you tell a great story in the book, again, I mentioned earlier that there's really some actionable items and some systems that you put into here, and I would almost call them processes. You know, when we're going into this, for example, you've given us three really good highlights and main points to what, you know, to make those connections with the people that know us, like us, and trust us, and develop deeper relationships with them. And I love that you refer to them as generating fusion points. Generating fusion points. Jeff, I'm going to have you talk a little bit about fusion points in just a moment. The book also offers 5 different guided points on, you know, how you can have the conversations with either the decision influencer or the decision maker. So there's 5 great strategies on how you can really help the conversation build into allowing them to make a really great decision, but also the decision to move forward if it's right for them. But let's shift our focus really to the fusion points for just a moment. If you would talk about the fusion points, Jeff, and also how we could learn a little bit more about maybe a daily email that you put together that I believe just launched. Tell us about that if you would.
Well, thank you so much. That's a great question. Fusion Points, basically, it's part of a branding that I developed when I retired from the insurance industry. I had been in the insurance industry for over 20 years, and something puzzled all of us is when you could take 2 people whose resumes look the same, their skill sets look like they should be complementary, they should be very successful in selling, put them both out in the field. One would choose to persist and become very good at it. The other would choose to quit and they would go do something else. And it always puzzled us. Took me down the road, and I won't go through all the science on this, but I began to study how people make decisions. And the final gist of it is there are 2 things that happen with every decision. Our brain has a part that deals with logic, and it has another part that generates our emotions. And every single decision we make, those 2 parts of the brain have to communicate, or the decision doesn't get made. And so that decision is a combination of logic and emotion. In our bodies, when we have an emotional response, or an emotion happens in our brain, immediately the brain sends an electrical charge into our body. Now, if it's a negative emotion like fear, mistrust, a fear, thinking you're going to lose out somehow, if that's what's happening, that feeling inside our body is not comfortable. We don't like it. We want to avoid it. So whatever's causing that at the time, whatever the logic behind it is, we push back. But the flip side is also true. When we have a positive emotional experience in our brain, it sends a somatic marker too, but it's a pleasurable somatic marker. It's that feeling of comfort. We like what's going on, and we want to continue that process just as human beings. Well, a fusion point is the combination of logic and positive emotion. And when they combine, what happens is kind of miraculous. People persist in their career. A client or a prospect becomes comfortable taking that next step when you've generated enough positive emotional responses and paired that with the logic of what you're doing at the time. And so as leaders in our organization, or as salespeople with a potential client or existing client that we want to always come back to us every single time they need anything that we do, if we're intentional about doing things that create that connection of positive emotion and logic, what happens is whoever we're working with at the time gets comfortable taking that next step forward. And in an organization, it will build such huge loyalty inside an organization. People don't want to go work anywhere else, and prospects don't want to do business with anybody but you.
I'm so glad that you brought up the science behind that and why the research is so important about the connections between our left brain and our right brain, and really connecting both sides so that we can make that balanced brain decision. You know, I know that you're starting out a new email as well, so we're going to put information into the chat where we can learn more about those. But in the book, you know, you do give 3 great suggestions on how we can create more of those fusion points, which are easy to do. They really are very easy to follow and easy to understand. And when we shift our focus to them and make it be about them, it's easy to help create that value for them. Let's shift our focus, if we could right now, to part of the title, Become Objection Proof. In this book, you list at least 13 different strategies on ways that we can become objection proof. But first, Bob, what exactly do you and Jeff mean by objection proof? And really, what are the benefits of being objection proof?
Yeah, so objection proof is both a philosophy and a methodology that allows the salesperson to work effectively within the objections aspect of the sales process. In other words, in sales, most of us have been taught that you've got to overcome objections. So if the prospect says the price is too high or the fee is too high, you say blah 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 blah. If they say I have to think it over, you say blah 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 blah. If they say this, you say that. Well, there's a couple of problems with that. First, you just simply cannot overcome an objection. Why not? Well, you take the word overcome, which is another word of saying convince. Okay, another way of saying convince. Convince, the Latin root of convince, convincere, means to conquer. Okay. Now, as Jeff said, he and I can talk for hours about sales, and we have. And one of the things we both agreed on is we have never met a prospective customer or client who cared to have their objections overcome by us. No, the ego kicks in. It's not a matter of them being right or wrong. It's a matter of them feeling defensive and having to hold their position. Okay. So when you try to conquer someone, that's what happens. Okay. The other thing is this: a lot of times the prospect gives you an objection that's really not the actual objection. Now, I'm not saying they're lying. I mean, if they are, and that happens, but if they are, that's a whole different story. That's a lack of trust. And you've got to build that trust before anything's going to happen. No, I'm talking about well, let's put it this way. As a realtor, you do the same thing practically every day, right? You understand the process. The process is second nature to you. But you're dealing with someone who maybe does this once, twice, 3 times in their entire life, right?
That's a really good point. I mean, that's huge because we're doing it every day, but potentially, and salespeople, but for a buyer or a seller, it's not as many. So yes,
exactly.
So
So
let's
they
go
don't
deeper
know.
into this example.
Yeah, well, they don't know the process. And so they're kind of, a little bit defensive themselves. They don't know exactly what to ask. They don't want to sound ignorant like they should know. Or maybe they really don't know what's bothering them, but they know it's something. And so like the old Spider-Man cartoon, a comic strip where he had spidey sense, right? So he didn't exactly know what was wrong, but he could sense there was something wrong. Well, they sense there's something that's not quite right. They don't know what it is. So what do? They kind of just blurt out the first objection that they're familiar with.
Right.
Okay. So here's the thing. If you try to just overcome that objection, if they say this, you say that, you could be giving the best, well-rehearsed, the smoothest answer to the wrong objection. Okay. And now you're no better off than where you were before, because there's still the objection there. You just don't know what's the most dangerous objection, the one you never hear. Right. And so, so we don't want to overcome. Instead, what we want to do, and what objection proof helps you do, is to work within the actual objection. Partner with this person. Then you can work together again in partnership to advance the sale.
Beautifully said. That is so important. And we have that radar, that scanner that goes off when we feel like somebody's trying to overcome our objections. So instead, following that, just that cue and really being able to help guide them through the process is so much easier. Jeff, let's go to you. Let's talk about 3 ways. What are your top 3 favorite ways that you could that you really think about when out of all of the different ones, what are your top 3 favorites on becoming objection proof?
That's a great question. I am the whole premise on becoming objection proof to me hinges on a couple of key things. Number one is, Bob and I both say, the better your discovery when you're asking questions of that potential client, the better your discovery, the fewer their objections are going to be anyway. So when you get good at asking the right questions in your discovery section and you begin to handle your common objections that we're all going to get, you've been in sales 2 or 3 days, you've probably heard most of the objections you're ever going to hear. And they're kind of embedded in our process itself. Once we understand where those are in that discovery section, we can actually bring those issues out if we do it correctly, along with the solution to those. And then instead of it being an objection that they voice at the end, it's education that you gave during that sales conversation. So that to me is where it starts. But the single biggest factor about all of the objection-proof process to me is your empathy. When you have a genuine interest in what your client or potential client is feeling, it shows in every other part of the process. It shows in how you ask questions so that you can understand what they're going through, so that you can actually eventually, as we teach in the process, shift their perspective, change that frame slightly, and help them work through the issue themselves. And so, but it's that empathy level where you care about what someone's feeling. Empathy level is sometimes people will say you know what they're feeling. Well, that's yes and no. Granted, I'm really good at reading people at times, and at other times I'm really not. And so to assume that I know what they're feeling is probably not right. But the fact that I can tell they're feeling something, and that I care what's going on, and I want to know more about it so I can help them, that is the key to empathy. And the third thing I guess that I would say, becoming objection proof, as people go through the process of what we do, it's a very well, what Bob's been teaching on objection proof for decades is so strong. It easily worked into the storyline. But what happens when you follow that methodology, you end up taking what some salespeople worry about as an objection, excuse me, and it sets off their own somatic markers, making them uncomfortable because they're afraid they're going to lose something. We take what some people would feel that way and we teach them how to change it so that even when you do get an objection, that client or that prospect, the way you work with them, actually, when you're through, the relationship is stronger. Not because they had an objection that you overcame, which would have made it weak. It gets stronger because they had a concern and you got in there with them and helped them find a solution to something they wanted to find a solution for. And the way you did it, when you got through, you created a fusion point just by how you worked with them.
Beautifully said. Our goal is to give permission to help them realize their dreams. Buyers would like to buy, sellers would like to sell. And a lot of times there's that little voice, or just identifying what's in the way that could be their objection. But I love how you brought in the education, like anticipating ahead of time and weaving that into the conversation. Oftentimes people don't know how to move forward, to take the next steps. When you can bring that up and just fuse that right in, that's a powerful thing to help them, give them that permission to move forward. The education piece is beautiful. Empathy is probably number one. I would have to agree with you as well. I mean, just out of everything that we do, maybe it's not reading people, maybe it's the intent to understand more and understand, the feelings of another person, and really put ourselves in their position as well. Bob, would you like to share any more of just more of your favorite points, or maybe even examples, just around how to become more objection proof?
Yeah, I mean, I guess thinking of one, quick example, it might be the realtor who has been showing a really nice couple a really nice home, and they seem really sold on it. And the next day, the wife wants to take one more walk through and so forth, and so the realtor takes her through, and as they leave, he expects that they're going to go write up an offer, and she surprises him, and she says, I think the house might be too far from town. Well, he didn't expect that. And he says, well, actually, it's not really far at all. It's just 10 miles. And she says, well, we like to be close to where everything is. Not a problem. On a bad day, it's 25 minutes. On a good day, you can make it in 15. Well, I don't know, but you do love the home, right? Well, thunk, kerplunk, crash, thud. That one totally is gone. Why? Well, what this person who was trying to overcome the objection did was, first of all, it communicated two things. One was that he was much more interested in his commission than he was with helping her. And the other thing he communicated was no empathy whatsoever regarding her feelings. Okay. So now let's take the objection proof realtor. She has the same thing. She takes this person through, and the person then says, well, I think the house might be too far from town. And she says, could be. What are you thinking? And the customer says, well, we love the home itself, but we like to be close to where everything is.
Mhm.
Sounds like that's important to you. If I may ask, when you say close to where everything is, are there some specifics you have in mind? Well, yeah, with our one child and probably a couple more along the way, we want to be sure that we have, that we have access to, entertainment and food and shopping and sports, and heaven forbid one of the kids gets in an accident, we got to take them to the hospital. Here's the thing: my spouse and I, we both grew up right in the city where everything's just so close. To us, 10 miles might as well be a lifetime away. I understand. I pretty sure I understand. So if I have this right, while you love the idea of living in this home, we need to balance that with your and Mark's comfort level at being this distance. Is that correct? Yes, yes, that's exactly it. That's the issue. Well, I know there's a development going up about 2 miles from here, and it will have the amenities of a couple of restaurants, one fine dining, another more fast food. There's gonna be a couple ball fields, there's a movie theater, and, there is even a small walk-in emergency clinic. Now, I don't know if this will meet your needs, but would you like to take a visit and see if we're in the ballpark? Now, by listening, okay, by empathizing, by caring about what she said. Now, that doesn't mean you necessarily agree with her. So, in other words, if we take this back for a second, when she says, I think the house is too far from town, he's, could be. What are you thinking? She wasn't saying, oh, yeah, okay, that's it. Let's look at something else, because she doesn't know that that's not necessarily the objection. She doesn't know yet. She doesn't have enough information. So when then the person says, well, we love the home itself, which he wouldn't even admit to the other person, right? We love the home itself, but we like to be close to where everything is. That's still not quite enough information.
Mhm.
So she said, but it's closer, but not enough. So she said, sounds like that's really important to you. If I may ask, when you say close to where everything is, are there some specifics you have in mind? Okay, now we're going to get something. She's going to let this person talk, and she's going to empathize, and she's going to be with her while she's doing that. And then finally, and if you let the prospect talk and express themselves and feel safe, they're going to tell you what the objection is. And Gigi said, my spouse and I both grew up in the city where everything's so close together. So that's what the objection was. It wasn't that it was too far from town. It was that she wasn't comfortable with how far away from the amenities they might be. But had she not empathized, had she not listened, had she not genuinely cared, put that person's interests before her own, she never would have gotten to the point, and she would have been trying to overcome an objection that wasn't actually even there.
So what a great example. When we're thinking about discovery, really, like learn more, and understand more about what that potential underlying concern may be, and then dig deeper and really go into asking those questions. That's amazing. I need more time with both of you. I mean, I just this feels like we could just go on and on and on. I've got so much more that I want to dive into, but again, there's 13 different ways, to become objection proof and to really guide a conversation where it's safe and it's something where we know that the buyer or the seller or is the other person is kind of solving, taking all of their options and making the decision themselves. So beautifully said. Now there is an opportunity that I'd like to talk about happening. Is it June 3rd and June 4th in Jupiter, Florida? And that is an event where Streetwise Live is happening, and we get both of you live along with Kim Angeli, and to be able to learn more and dive deeper for leaders, for salespeople, for entrepreneurs. This is going to be an incredible event. And to get to see Bob Burg live and Jeff West together is pretty darn impressive. So how do we do that? And what do we do to learn more about that opportunity?
Well, there is what we're going to do is we're going to send out personal invites to people.
Okay.
I think you have the link, and if people will click on that link and just fill in their information, we will send you a VIP invite. We will have a website up. We don't actually even have one up now. We'll be up in about a week and a half, but it's the VIP invitation that
So
we
we are in front of the game. We're in
You
front of
are.
this right
You're
now.
in front of the game, yeah.
Okay.
And so it's going to be two days of all sorts of sales, teaching, and information, plus Kim Angeli, who's a beautiful, wonderful strategist. And then we'll have a nice get together the night before. So it's going to be a lot of fun.
And it's in Jupiter, Florida as well.
Well, actually, this is going to be in West Palm, so it's going to be right near the airport, but it's being held at the beautiful, amazing Ben Hotel. And this is and it's something like a typical night there is something like $800 to $1,000, and we're getting them the block of rooms, something like 300 a night or 350 a night or something like that. So
Wow.
somebody made a joke, just come to stay at the Ben, forget about the event. But
In
I'd
West
rather
Palm. I don't know, Jupiter, West Palm, twist my arm. They're both
Exactly.
incredible and amazing opportunities. So West Palm at the Ben in
the
early
Ben.
June. So a
Mhm.
few different ways you can stay connected. Number one, listen to the book. Just get it on Audible, order it. It has already sold out on Amazon, and now it's back. And so there's a lot of exciting ways to get this book. I will share some of those links in addition to that if you're interested in the fusion points and getting that in a daily. Is it a daily email, Jeff, as well?
Actually, I do between 3 and 5 per week, and that would just
Okay.
be at jeffcwest.com/fusion points unleashed.
Fusion Points Unleashed. I will share that in the chat as well. And then, of course, our daily impacts. Every single day, I get to wake up to Bob and get to, get my positive inspiration for the day. And so, Bob, how do we learn more about that as well? And I'll put that in the links.
Yeah, or and since the actual link is a little hard to remember, I'll just say go to burg.com, and one of those annoying little pop-ups will come up and you can click on that.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. So we are so grateful for both of you. Thank you so much for joining us today, and just the inspiration of, just that we've gotten to just create more successes. And we're grateful for both of you for changing so many lives, including our own. So with that, we will sign off and tell everybody, make it a great week, everyone, and make sure that you are really diving into the strategies and the wonderful story of Streetwise to Saleswise by Bob Burg and Jeff C. West. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.